ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Okay. Any questions, clarifications, or it's all clear? You can go ahead. Okay. All right. Then let's start. Now remember, this is discussion about the nature of the consciousness now. In this whole section, what we are doing is a discussion on the nature of the consciousness. Okay. So going that further. Now a lot of it we have seen in the Upanishads, in the Gita, the Brahmasutras, all that. This is more like brushing up so that we are ready to go ahead. Okay. Yeah. So any doubts, any clarification that you want, this will be a good time to deal with all those things. Okay. I know many of you did a good presentation job, everything, all the debate, presentation, all that was done. It's good. Okay. As a result of that, also some doubts and all can come up. Okay. So when that happens, okay, so please check, and any doubts you have or clarifications you need, good time to do before we go ahead into anything else.
Swamiji, I had a doubt.
Yeah.
Sunita. But Swamiji, it is not related to the previous verses. It is related to the one of the debates that we had done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little long. So should I do it at the end of the class?
No,
or
should
we
now,
do it
should
now?
now, should.
Okay, so the thing is that I was just thinking a bit on the whole thing. It is regarding karma and jnanam. So one thing is very clear to me, that we can get moksha only through jnanam.
Yes.
That is very clear. And another thing which is very clear to me is jnanam is not opposed to karma. But I don't know, I had a lot of thinking over it, and what I thought was that when for my example, or anybody else, when we come to jnanam, it is presumed that some good karmas in the past have brought us here, which is always said. That's point number one. Point number two is sustaining of that jnanam also, like Shravanam, Vamananam and Nididhyasanam. So again, yoga, jnana, tapas, dana, tapas, all this is mentioned in Gita. Keep doing that. Karma, again, second. And so at every step, we are taking the help of karma. And so I see, nobody is born adhikari. Like, I may not have an animal birth before and directly come to Vedanta. When Sundar had said, see, when the Vedas say get up at 7 in the morning, for Brahma Murta and all. But Swamiji, there is a chance we have done all this before. So, and since karma is a product of avidya, and we are all born with avidya, it is known that, so we all start with karma. So somehow I had a block that maybe jnanam is secondary, this thing in a school, primary is karma. Then you will get the degree of moksha. I cannot go to jnanam without karma. So when I say that I get moksha only through jnanam, I may not be so right, but it is true. But how to go to that jnanam? Because every time in all the lectures, somewhere we always specify that it's our good karmas and keep in the nishkama karma also. So that is also the stages of this thing on. So we cannot completely say that jnanam is only responsible for moksha. No, karma plays, because we start with karma only. Everything starts with karma, and even after realization, like if I sit for mananam or nididhyasanam for 1 hour and I think about it, I get up and I do karma, because that is what my prarabdha is. So karma is not going to end till the end last.
Fair enough.
I was stuck there, that why we don't accept karma, that way. Yeah.
You know, Shankara answers this question He says, Pakasya Vannivad Jnanam, he says. For cooking, what is the most important thing necessary? The fire, the heat. Heat, whether it is through a gas fire, coal fire, wood fire, microwave, whatever. Without that fire, cooking will not happen. So, when you say cause, okay, we will see more of this when we do the Tarka Shastra, etc. Okay. Niyata Purva Vrittitva. What is inevitably necessary and exists immediately before the effect is called cause. Okay. I am a teacher of Vedanta. Correct? Teacher of Vedanta. But I wouldn't have been a teacher of Vedanta without my parents giving me birth. So are they the cause for me being a teacher of Vedanta? Long back support was there. But what is immediately responsible is the knowledge again from a teacher. So immediate. So we have to go through a lot of karmas first to come to human birth. Yes. We have to do a lot of karmas to take care of your mind. Yes. You have to do a lot of karma to maintain your life. Even if there is a lockdown. Like weekend lockdown. Don't worry, even if there is a lockdown, it will be something like this one. So, a lot of karma has to be done. So, we are not saying that karma is not necessary for your life or your living or your preparation for Vedanta. But because everything that we have gained in life is because of karma. Correct? Every little achievement of ours is karma dependent. There is a tendency to extend that to moksha as well. Therefore, there is a lot of karma khandana. That moksha cannot be karma phalam. The negation is only there. Yeah. The negation is only there. Okay. The negation is only there. Okay. That what is happening here? 1 second. Okay. The negation is only for karma giving you moksha. That moksha is a product of karma in some way or the other. That is all that is being negated. That is all that is being negated. And without jnanam, no moksha can happen. Without jnanam, no moksha can happen. Okay. When that is there, then there is not an issue. So, karma is necessary for your life? Of course it is necessary. Karma is necessary for preparing your mind? Of course it is. Chittasya shuddhaye karmaha natu vastu upalabdhaye. For chitta shuddhi, karma is necessary, but not for gaining the vastu. 1 second, how come these people are yet to be let in? 1 second. There is some problem as far as letting in people. How come they are not being let in? Okay, they come in. Okay. So, for preparing the mind, etc., karma is necessary. For coming to Vedanta, also karma is necessary. For getting into a class, also karma is necessary. Some people are struggling in the waiting room, somehow it is not happening. So, right now, karma is necessary. Are you getting that? For all this, karma is necessary, nobody is saying no. But what is the thing that will give you that knowledge, that give you moksha? What is that immediately necessary for moksha? Jnanam, not karma. So in your life, of course, karma is necessary. Therefore, when we negate jnana karma samuchchaya, when we say that you cannot join jnanam and karma together, we are only talking of this step of moksha, that final step. Life, of course, you are combining it. In fact, everything that you do is a mixture of knowledge and that knowledge being applied in your life. No? Therefore, jnana karma samuchchaya is happening. Except in Vedanta. Okay? Except in Vedanta. Because once you gain knowledge of the self, what karma are you going to do for knowledge? For knowledge, you can't do any karma. You only use the pramana. Once you gain the knowledge, you don't do any karma for knowledge because you already gained it. So the negation is only there. It's a good question because it plays on people's minds. Consciously or subconsciously, it will be there because this is where the whole thing comes in. Final step. Life, of course, there will be karma. Even a sannyasi has minimal karma. No? What is sannyasa? You have renounced a lot of roles so that you are not caught up in those type of karmas. It's a high degree of prioritization that moksha is your main thing. It's the same prioritization rule that I taught you all in the workshop. Same thing goes through. Live your life by your priorities. Then you have much more time on hand to do what's necessary. Otherwise, you are running around like a headless chicken just because you are interested in things. You can be interested in a million things, but what is the priority in your life? Yeah, because a lot of time is spent on things which you are interested in, but which is a low priority in our life or no priority in our life. I'm sure everyone here is interested in the election results in Bengal, right? What's happening in Bengal? Interesting. Interesting play happening. Sometimes very ridiculous play with consequences for the common person. People are dying. Gherao the CRPF, etc. And they did it and they died. I mean, ridiculous. Never seen a chief minister who has lost it so much. Anyway, so we are all interested. So does that mean I am going to switch on the TV and watch 24/7 the news? The news is continuously on. Watch it morning, watch it evening, finish. Ho gaya. If you're that keen, watch it morning, watch it evening. Both ho gaya. Yeah. So, why? And then focus on your priorities. Then you are all the time in the world. So similarly, when you take sannyasa, etc. for moksha, it is a high degree of prioritization. That's all. The people think there are 101 rules for sannyasis. Really speaking, there are hardly any rules. Rules are when you play roles. When you are not playing roles, what rules are there? Every rule is connected with some role you play. Na? If you don't have rules, how many? If you don't have roles, how many rules will you have? So sannyasi's life is not too many rules, it's less. So that is where karma and jnanam comes in. Clear about it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, then let's go ahead. Anyone else, anything or clear?
Swamiji, if I might just request a clarification.
Yeah.
The way I perhaps also understood it was that when Shankaracharya was referring to karma, he was referring also a lot to the Vaidika karma, the ritualistic part, which
Yeah.
was like reduce that part of it, kind of. Is that a correct?
In a way, yes, because
uh,
even worldly karmas to an extent, because prioritization is applicable to both. And Vedic karma came into the picture because people think Swargadi is moksha. Going to another dimension, higher, is moksha. Therefore, to negate that, that was also brought in. Yeah, that is also brought in. See,
Thank you, sir.
Dharmartha Kama is what people are seeking. Basically, Artha Kama. Dharma, because in your maturity you realize that there has to be some common principles for mutual functioning. And Dharma also refers to what will happen hereafter. That's like plan B. If I can't get it here, I will get it there. Plan B. Yeah. So, since that is what most people are seeking, it was necessary for the Shastra to come and say that is not moksha, that's only a big break. Okay? It's only a break that you are having in life. It's good. No one say no. Have a nice holiday, come back and pick up the struggle again. Yeah. So, because of that, okay, yeah. Somebody is gone out and stuck. I don't know why people are leaving out of my mind. Okay. So, because of that, they brought in the aspect of dismissing Vedic karma also for moksha. Okay. See, that's why a wise person may dismiss Vedic karma for moksha, but if the person is starting a project, will do a karma for the successful completion of the project, etc. You see this all the time. Why? The karma is not for moksha, karma is for the project on hand. Yeah, the karma is for the project on hand, not for moksha. Yeah. So, those type of things will come into the picture.
Swamiji, can I just
Yeah.
take 2 more
Yeah,
minutes
ask,
or do
ask,
it
ask.
after the class? Yeah. So one more thing was that karma is with dosha. They say na karma is, so all this graha and then brahmacharya and all those stages and all the ashramas, so then everything, nobody can give up karma in those. It is only sannyasa, then there is the thing that officially there can be no karmas. So all these stages karma will have dosha. So for final moksha, it has to be sannyasa. That's the only, that is
No.
what it meant. I don't know, I just got
No.
confused there little. Yeah.
See, a life of karma yoga is unavoidable for moksha. Why? Because that's what prepares your mind. Okay? It's karma yoga that prepares your mind. Therefore, karma yoga is unavoidable. But sannyasa is optional. As far as lifestyle sannyasa we are talking about, okay? When you say sannyasa, remember there are 2 aspects to it. One is jnana lakshana sannyasa. Sannyasa that is characterized by knowing. Therefore, everything else is given up. Purely knowledge. By knowledge. The other is sannyasa as a lifestyle, which I said is a high degree of prioritization in the pursuit of moksha or in owning up that knowledge. So you are not disturbed by anything else. Okay. So this lifestyle is an optional choice. There are many wise people, men and women, who did not choose a sannyasa lifestyle. Rishis, etc. All are rishis. Many kings, Janaka, Bhishma, etc. So many of them did not choose a lifestyle. One thing I have noticed, okay, this is therefore as a lifestyle it is optional. You need to focus on the knowledge, that's all. Though I have noticed one thing in my observation of a couple of generation of seekers. Okay, this is my personal observation. Okay, this is my personal observation. Therefore, take it like that. This is not the pramana of the Shastra coming in. That is that for most people, some time out to study, to reflect, to contemplate is definitely helpful. Even though they don't take formal sannyasa, some time out. That's why I keep organizing camps for everyone twice a year. Why? Because small time outs where you are not disturbed by anything in the family, your job, etc. You can immerse yourself in this knowledge. That is definitely helpful. Okay? That is definitely helpful. Therefore, if you do sufficient of that, then you may not require the sannyasa as a lifestyle. Zoom class is a poor substitute, okay? Yeah, Zoom class recordings, etc. are poor substitutes. But you can get a good bit of it, things on it. It's not that it is useless also. No, of course. A lot of stuff you understand. And if you have interactive sessions once in a way like this, and once in a way you drop into the camp, this, that, etc., things will work out fine. So it can work out. Yeah. But live teaching cannot be replaced. Live teaching cannot be replaced. Okay. I know how much difference is there in the teaching when I am doing it on Zoom and I am doing it live. Others may not recognize it. I do. Yeah. That's why I ask, if you have a good connection, please keep this thing off so that I can see you. Yeah. So many other factors come into the picture. Not just communication, body language, etc., but much more come into the picture. Much more come into the picture. Your mental connect. Yeah, that's also very important. You pick up signals and signs which otherwise you wouldn't have. All at the level of the mind. Empathy. All this happens. Okay? Yeah. Which can happen in a live thing. But there are also, if you are not getting it live and you are doing it through recording, Zoom and things like that, you just need to spend more time and effort on your own. The advantage of a live class is the teacher does 80% of the work. You only have to do 20%. Of course, preparing the mind is your job. I can only give you tips on it. But if it is not a live class, then the student has to do more than that. Student has to do more. Yeah. Going over, clarifying this, that. That's why I put up the recordings and things like that. Thanks to Anusha and all, we can, we always put up the recordings. Within a couple of days of the class, the recordings are up. Why a couple of days? Why not immediately? Because on the weekend the Wi-Fi is poor. It doesn't get uploaded fast enough. Yeah. Therefore, Sunday night or Monday night I start uploading. So 2 days things are up. Yeah. Therefore, that is where the whole thing goes. Okay. Therefore, don't think that sannyasa is a lifestyle, is a must. No, it is not. If you think like that, you'll always feel less about yourself and you'll keep postponing moksha. Believe me, I had the vision of the truth before I joined the ashram. And I You know, people talk about, oh, they went up the hill and they sat down on some rock and they got this huge experience, this, that, etc. They talk like that. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe they did. I mean, it's their personal experience. How can I question that? Maybe they did. So I remember once my last holiday with my family in Kerala, just before I joined the ashram. Okay, train journeys those days. I joined the ashram in '76. This was before that. Okay, those days middle class people never flew. You know, all train journeys only. So train journeys. Second sleeper. Can imagine what the conditions in the train are. Okay, 6 people sitting in the 2 rows, 2 on that side, so 8. Hawkers coming up and down, going on, and all this is going on. Chai wala, this, that. And I am sitting here reading Vedanta. Okay, the noise of the train, the noise of the hawkers, people chanting, and I am reading away. And suddenly I stop because a few sentences speak out to me, volumes to me. My God, this is true. This is true. And I'm just stuck on that. This is true. Pramana, okay? I'm stuck on the pramana, not on an experience. But that thing, yeah, this is true. Then my kid sister tells, Mohan Cheta, meaning Mohan Bhaiya, okay? Are you reading? Half an hour you've been on the same page. Yeah, I was just lost in thought. I don't need a mountain peak under my butt. Okay. So, who says insights cannot happen anywhere? I still joined the ashram. Oh, you got insight. Why didn't you declare yourself as a wise person and go about it? Because I knew what needed to be done. What more needed to be done. Yeah. I knew what more needed to be done. I knew what this mind was. Well, that insight was good. Yes, of course it was great. Yeah, but lot more work had to be done. Then just before the course started, Swamiji had a camp. I attended the camp as well. He was doing Kena Upanishad. Wow, that Kena Upanishad was a mind-blowing Upanishad. Naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha. Sure, all of you understand. We have done it. I mean, you will talk about it also. Mind-blowing. Great. So I came back from the camp and there was a study group that I used to normally attend. I walked straight into that. In fact, my friends looked at me and says, "What happened to you? You look different." No, I just gained some insights in my mind. Because it could be seen that there was something playing in my mind which was different from before. All right, fine. I still joined the ashram because I knew what all had to be done. You may get an insight like that. Or it may be a slow process. Many of you have told me sometimes after a class, Swamiji, today the class was great. Means what? Somewhere something's clicked. Somewhere something clicked. My class is more or less the same. Depends upon what the verses are, what I am doing. Yeah. More or less a certain standard I maintain. Sometimes it goes up. Yeah. Okay, accepted. You're human. I try, it doesn't dip. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, you gain all these insights, this, that, etc. But that is not moksha. You still have to work on it, own up the knowledge in your life. For that owning up, some time apart from things, etc. helps. Not a must, but it helps. Yeah. Clear? Any other questions?
No, Swamiji. Thank you.
Yeah. See, don't have a doubt in your mind and go ahead listening, okay? Clarify as and when things are there, clarify, okay? Yeah. Okay. Okay, then he is making another verse here. Remember, all this is the same, continuing the nature of the consciousness. You know, in keeping with what I said before, why do you think we do so many different Upanishads, the Gita, so many different texts, etc.? When all that is being said is your limitless awareness. But it is put in in 100 different ways so that something will click. Some method, some way of presentation will click. And if it has clicked, every method of presentation will add some more nuances to your understanding. If the teaching is in harmony with the parampara, it will work. With the Sampradaya of Vedanta, basically Adhyaropa Apavada. If that is being followed, it will work. Okay? Even if the mind lacks some preparation, you will get insights. Owning up will be a little struggle, but that's okay, it can be done. Okay? Then continuing that, he says, Vyavadhanadhi paroksham lokadrishte anatmanaha drishte atma sarupatvat pratyaksham brahma tasmritam. Okay? He's deliberately giving a twist to the whole thing. Vyavadhanadhi. Who's this guy keeping on? Vyavadhanad, okay? Vyavadhanad, because there is an intervening factor. Okay? Dihi. Okay, buddhi. Paroksham lokadrishte anatmanaha. The anatma that you see from a book to this body, from the book to this body, mind, etc., all other than the Atma, he says, really speaking, they are paroksham, they are away from you. Even though we call this pratyaksham, remember? Book is pratyaksham, pratyaksha pramanena siddham. Mind, pratyaksha, sakshi pratyaksha. But he says, paroksham, they are away from you. Paroksham in the sense, they are away from you. Why? Because you need that intervening pramana and the thought, etc., for you to see it. For you to see it, there is the need for your buddhi, the pramana, your eyes, etc. Because of that, he says, they are all away from you. Paroksham in the sense of being away from you. Okay, being away from you. Drishte atma sarupatvat. Whereas the one who is seeing all this, the drishta, the seer, tasya atma sarupatvat, because I am the sarupa of the seer. I am the sarupa, the true nature of the seer. He says, pratyaksham brahma tasmritam. Brahman is only pratyaksham. Brahman or Atman is only pratyaksham. Only thing that is pratyaksham in the sense of being immediately available. Not pratyaksham as a pramana, but pratyaksham as being immediately available. Why? Because I know myself, I am without the necessity of a thought. I know the book because of a thought. I know the body because of a thought. Anatma is known with the help of a thought and a pramana. Anatma is known with the help of a pramana and a thought, whereas I, the Atma, is known without a thought, without thinking. I am self-evident. I am is only self-evident entity in the world. Therefore, that pratyaksham, in fact, you will see some of the books, advanced books, they'll say, yes, sakshad aparoksham brahma. What is sakshad aparoksham? That alone is Brahman. What is directly known to you, that is Brahman. Everything else is an Atma. Brahman, Atma, okay? Brahman, Atma used interchangeably because they are one and the same. That alone is the, everything else is an Atma. Are you all getting the way he has presented it? Or is there a doubt in this?
Yes, getting it. Swami.
Getting it?
Getting
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yes.
Doubt hai to puch lo, okay? Remember, he says they are paroksham only because of their intervening thought and pramana. Because without that, you will not know.
Vishi, but here he is using again, I am the content of the self and I know Brahman as the pratyaksham. So why two things again? I didn't get it, sorry.
That's what. Okay, he says, now what, look at this. Drishte atma swarupatvat. Since I am the swarupa of the one who is seeing everything. And what am I? Already heard from the Smriti? From the Shruti? As Brahman. I've already heard that. I already know that. Therefore, pratyaksham brahma tasmrutam. Brahman is the only thing that is pratyaksham. See, why is he putting it like this? It's important to see that why also. There is a tendency, partly because of Neo Vedanta, partly, to put the reality as somewhere beyond everything. Because see, as my identification of the body and mind is strong, because my identification of this body and mind is strong, this is what I am. Then, but I suffer from the sense of finitude. I am seeking fulfillment, moksha. Alright. And it is presented that you must know the truth. You must know yourself. You must know Brahman. Atman Brahman. This is what is presented. And that subconscious thing in your mind is what? This is me, I have to know Brahman. Brahman is not, this is not this thing. Mind and body, etc. are not Brahman. Out yonder is Brahman. Brahman is beyond the body, mind, etc. Correct? So the tendency to put the Brahman as beyond, that is being negated by verses like this. No, Brahman is Swarupa of the one who is seeing, of the one who is knowing, the one who is struggling. Brahman is the Swarupa of the samsari. Let me put it that way. Let me make it a bit controversial. Atma Brahman is the Swarupa of the samsari. Make sense? The rope is the Swarupa of the snake. Make sense? Water is the Swarupa of the wave. Make sense? So where the snake is, there you have to look for the rope. So Brahman is the Swarupa of the samsari. That means what? There is no snake, there is only rope. There is no samsari, there is only Brahman. If you misunderstand Brahman, you will get samsari. Wearing a sari or chasing someone in a sari doesn't make you a samsari. If you misunderstand Brahman, you will get samsari. If you understand Brahman, you will forget, you will wonder where is the samsari gone. है ही नहीं है. It was just an appearance. So that is why it is presented like this. Because of our tendency to put the truth as somewhere away, other than everything, different from everything. That's why it's important to understand I am independent of the body, body is dependent on me. I am independent of the mind, mind is dependent on me. It is not enough just to say I am different, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not this. Then what am I? That reality which is beyond all this lifetime trip. Lifetime trip. Still struggling to, and how do you know that? Because beyond your mind. Therefore, you look for experiences that will blow your mind. Yeah, the insight into the truth can be mind blowing, but we can have a lot of mind blowing experiences which has got nothing to do with the truth. Yeah, that's how it is. And you can be on a trip for your lifetime. I see so many of these things presented. Do this thing, all your karmas are burnt away. You're doing one thing and you expect all your karmas to be burnt away. How does that happen? How does that happen? Yeah. One karma cannot negate a million karmas. Even if you get two birds with one stone, okay, two karmas gone with your one karma. All your karma is going to do. Do this program, all your karmas are burnt. Hey. Alright, all my karmas are burnt. But my ignorance is not still there. Therefore, I will keep getting new karmas anyway. No, your ignorance is not there because you have experienced the truth. Huh? I have experienced the truth. That means the truth has been reduced to the level of some finite thing.
Truth has to be known, not experienced.
Yeah. Some finite thing it has become. That type of experience are plenty. You are experiencing yourself all the time anyway, as I. So what's the big deal about that? In deep sleep, you are nothing else only. But that doesn't deliver the goods. That doesn't deliver the goods. To avoid all that, this type of a presentation is there. The Shankara writes this was deliberately, because it's not only new. I'm sure in olden days also this type of thinking was there. Even though right now we attribute it to Neo Vedanta so that you know, okay, these are problem presentations. So you know that. But I'm sure it was there 100 years ago. I'm sure it was there 1,000 years ago. I'm sure it was there 5,000 years ago also. Why? Because minds are the same. How much have we really changed? Over the generations, how much have we really changed? Not much. Not much. Yeah. Scratch the surface, the primitive being is still there. How much have we changed? Really? Not much. No, Swamiji, we have built up a civilization. What type of a civilization? What civilization are we talking about? It seems to be a downward trend, in some areas at least. Anyway, what do you talk about is civilization that with all the technological advance is making videos on how to wash hands. So, how much have we really changed? हाँ थोड़ा इधर उधर some things that will keep going up and down anyway. That's bound to happen. Some all the technology is useless? No, all useful. Some of them are very useful, some of them can be abused. All that is there up to the human being. I'm talking of the human being. How much a human being? The same. Therefore, this type of thinking would have been there before for Shankara to negate. Yeah, Shankara to negate. Okay, Drishtya Atmaswara Pratyaksham Brahmas Tat Srutam. Therefore, what is to be known is that Brahman that is directly available for you as I. You only have to negate the ignorance around it. And for negating the ignorance around it, we have the pramana called the Veda, the Upanishad, etc. That takes care of the whole thing. Okay? Okay.
Swamiji,
Yeah.
Nita. Now, what did you say the meaning of Vyavadhanam is exactly?
Something coming in between.
Thank you.
Yeah. Then he gives you another one. Okay. Nahi deepantara apeksha yadvad deepa prakashane bodhasya atma sarupatvat na bodho anyasataishyate. For a deepa, not the deepa who is attending our class here, we are not talking about her, but deepa meaning the light. Okay. The deepa, the light, it's a good name to give a person, deepa. Okay, yeah, the light. You don't need another light to illumine the light. A source of light does not require to be illumined by another source of light. Otherwise, it will happen like what had happened to this character in Delhi. Winter in Delhi. Father is under the Razai. And he is seeing the sun moving around in the room. So he tells the son, "Beta, bahar dekh, suraj nikla kya nahi? Because if the sun is up, then I will get up and sit in the sun and have my cup of tea. So acha lagega." But the sun is not going out. He has opened the drawer and he is searching. Arey, kya dekh raha hai wahan? What are you looking for? वो टॉर्च था ना किधर? आई एम लुकिंग फॉर द टॉर्च टू सी वेदर द सन हैज कम अप. ऐसा नहीं होता है. इवन अ मोरॉन विल नॉट डू दैट. इवन अ मोरॉन विल नॉट डू दैट. ओके, लुक फॉर अ टॉर्च टू सी वेदर द सन इज अप और नॉट. But spiritual students can. Swamiji, with what consciousness can we know the consciousness? With what consciousness? You know the consciousness is objectifying your doubt. That is the consciousness that you are. The consciousness is objectifying your question. That is the consciousness we are talking about. And about the true nature of that consciousness, there is some ignorance in the mind. The pramana negates that ignorance. That is all. There is no doubt about I am. May who, there is no doubt. May kon who is the question. Sometimes maybe may kya hu. That's also okay. Or it may be sometimes मैं ऐसा क्यों हूँ. What to do? We are like this only. That is another statement. But the fact is, none of that is you anyway. You are objectifying all of that. None of them can be you. Therefore, this what you really are. Only that aspect has to be revealed by the pramana. That means what? Two things a pramana does. There is lot of ignorance about yourself, and because of this ignorance, there are a lot of self-judgments and conclusions. We don't like anybody judging us, but we have ourselves. had so many self-judgments and conclusions, n number, based on my family, my culture, my background, my experiences, my job, my function, my relationships. Oh my God, it's endless. Some of them hold me strong, some of them weak. If you have discovered some of these self-judgments as a part of your discovering your identity, then those are very strong. Man's search for identity is a very big thing, And you say, I am like this. Because now this, previously, I am like this was an unthinking conclusion. They are weak. Now, after having thought out very well, you have come to the one conclusion. I am like this, which is not your true nature anyway, based on a role or a function or what you are doing. That you are a mother or a father. Natural conclusion. To this kid I am a mother, or to this kid I am a father. ठीक है. No problems. Unless you over-identify with the role and become a helicopter parent. And start treating him like a kid even when he is 50. Only then there is an issue, otherwise there is no issue. A general conclusion. But after elaborate thinking and doing something, and then you said, this is my identity. That is strong. That's well thought out. And what is the problem? Because fundamental conclusion is wrong. What is the fundamental conclusion? I am a finite being. That I am a finite being is the first conclusion that you have. No? And based on that first conclusion, the whole thing is going. Based on this conclusion, the fundamental erroneous conclusion, I am a finite being. After that, any conclusion you load on it, is not going to change the picture, make it better. Yeah. It may give you some sense of self-worth, etc. sometimes. Maximum it can do is only that. But your self-worth has to move from what you are doing to what you are. And what you are is difficult. Because you look on your achievements and say what I am. I've been there, done that. Good. You have started aging. Yeah. How can you say been there, done that? So these conclusions are strong. At the most, they will give you some self-worth. At the most, which is good. If you mature out because of all those things, good. But the basic self-judgment, I am a finite being, has to go. That's why in the teaching, not much is talked about the roles, etc. Because teaching is universal, remember that. So your individual identity, roles, etc., they don't talk too much about. They start from that basic conclusion, I am a finite being, which is based on the body, mind, etc. What you are closely associated with. Because without this identification with your body and mind, you cannot have any other role or conclusions about yourself. How can you conclude about yourself, any role or function, unless you take yourself to be the body and mind? That is basic, isn't it? That's fundamental. Your conclusion is, I am a lawyer, for example, or I am an engineer, or I am a doctor. That gives you your identity. But without identifying with body and mind, can you do any of these things? Can you have any of these identities without identifying with body and mind? So the teaching generally starts with that identification, because those are fundamental identification. So this teaching starts with negating those identifications. And if I have not seen the connection between identifying with body and mind and my role identification, my other identities, if I don't see that connection, which we are expected to see, so natural, then I will negate body and mind verbally, but I will still hold on to my identity. Therefore, the negation will not really take place. Playing a role is not a problem. How independent of the role you are. Like I knew this young lady, I will not mention her name. She's been my student for a long time. And being a mother was very important for her. I met her when she was only 20 or something. At least 15, 18 years back this was. Okay. Being a mother was very, very important for her. At 20, when I asked her, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Even though she is already a chartered accountant, her answer was mother to a couple of kids. I said, wow, so clear about this and at such young age. It's not a girly dream. It was very, very clear. So you would think someone like her would be very strongly attached to the mother role. And she has a couple of kids. 2 smart young boys. And the elder one was 12, I think, or less, and the younger one was 7 or 8. She sent them on a cross-continental flight alone. She was abroad and she sent them back to India for a holiday alone. Why? Which mother will do that if you are attached to that role of mother? If you are holding on to the identity of mother, you won't be able to do this. Oh my God, they are bachchos, they don't know anything. What can they do? They are not bachchos. They are kids, yes, but there are proper guidelines in the airlines, this, that, etc. You take care of all that and you do. And they worked well. The kids landed here, very safe, very thing, baggage, this, that, everything fine, no issue. So, playing a role is not the issue. How much you are caught up in that identity is the issue. I am deliberately using her as an example because right from the time I know her, she wanted to be a mother. So you will think that mother identity is bogging her down. It is not. It is not. So one needs to make that connect, that my fundamental identity as a human being itself is an issue, and that is what the Shastra is negating. But I can't negate that holding on to my other identities. We try to negate this fundamental by holding on to the other. How can that happen? When I say my mother identity is strong, I am deliberately picking up that mother identity because that's one of the strongest identities. Popular culture also presents it that way. Biggest dialogue in Hindi films, "Main maa hu," I am mother. That justifies you doing anything. So, this identity cannot be had unless I identify myself with this body and mind. No? With this mind and body, if I don't identify, how will I identify myself with the role of a mother or father or anything else? That's why I spent some time, a few classes back, saying, hey, first come to being, I recognize I am a simple human being. I am a simple person. Simple person, body, mind, etc. Going around. Scratch the surface, we are all the same. Important to understand that. Functionally, you may have a lot of identities, including national, religious identity, etc. Yes, and that is necessary. For functioning world, your national identity, your religious identity, all that is necessary. Even your religious identity as a Hindu is necessary if you want Vedanta to survive. Really, I am saying. Otherwise, the traditional Vedanta will go and you will get Neo Vedanta, which will be a mess. So that's important for functioning, but for understanding. I'm a simple person. Religious identity, cultural identity, national identity, functional identity, it's a role that I play, the dress that I wear. I'm a simple person. Then I'm not a simple person also, that's a conclusion. Based on my body and mind, I am independent of the body and mind. Body and mind are apparent manifestations. I am that pure consciousness, Brahma Sanatanam. That recognition, that is called moksha. Anything else falls short of it. Anything else will fall short of it. That is what real freedom is about. You can still function in your different roles, different identities, etc. Why? Now they're all dress that you wear. Now they are all dress that you wear. Though some identities I accept are difficult to drop. Mother, doctor, difficult to drop. Soldier, very difficult to drop. Yeah. Because in some of these roles the pride is strong. The functioning is strong. A soldier's role, you are willing to die here in that role. How strong will the identity be? Yeah. You are willing to kill. You are willing to die, both. So the identity is very strong. I know with a small volunteer function how much it is. Rooted it is there in me, it's still there, some of it. But it's okay, it's fine. I can drop it anytime. I can pick it up anytime, I can drop it anytime. That is what is important. So some roles are difficult. To see yourself as independent is difficult. So that requires a little bit more work, that's all. A little bit more analysis, a little bit more thinking. Little bit deliberately not functioning like that. In a situation where you can get away with not functioning like that. Yeah. Like my child is doing something. He or she is an adult. But from saying something from the standpoint of a parent, I will refrain myself and say something from the standpoint of a friend. Not easy, no? Not easy at all. Yeah, but that's where it is. One needs to do that a bit. Then you'll come to the fundamental role of just body, mind, etc., which very simple to negate in the light of Vedanta, and then understand what you are. So all these loaded self-judgments, keep negating. You can keep functioning there, only negating and understanding. Okay. Okay. And therefore means what? What is the whole thing in this? Na deepe deepantarapeksha. Therefore, a light does not require another light. That means what? To know yourself, you don't have to objectify yourself. There is no need for a subject-object relationship to know yourself. Why? Because you already know yourself as I. fundamental issue. You already know yourself as I. Remember Brahmasudha, Adhyasa Bhasha? Nahi Atma ekantena avishaya asmat pratyaya vishayatvat. The Atma is not totally unknown to you. Why? It is the content of the word I. Asmat pratyaya vishaya it is. It is subject matter for I. Since it is the subject matter for I, it is not unknown. In fact, the only thing that is known without a thought, without thinking. The only thing that is self-evident is I. So about the self-evident I, there are some wrong notions and there is some ignorance. Negate the wrong notions and negate the ignorance. Here is where the crux of the matter is. To negate that ignorance, you need a means of knowledge. Why? Because ignorance can be negated only on knowledge, not by anything else. No amount of experience will negate ignorance. Unless you analyze that experience and come to the right knowledge, which is fine for objective things, for finite things. But not for the self. Therefore, you need the knowledge of what exactly is the nature of the self to negate ignorance about myself. So for that the pramana comes into the picture, the means of knowledge comes into the picture, the whole shastra comes into the picture. The whole learning process, the teaching process, all of that comes into the picture. And when that has come into the picture, then what? Ignorance gone, you are nothing but pure consciousness. You are nothing but pure consciousness. Fine. Limitless consciousness. And how are you living? As a finite being. With the knowledge of your infinity, you are living yourself as finite. Maja aa raha hai. Only then you will really see the meaning of what? Of all the world is a stage and men and women but players. They have their entries, they have their exits. It makes sense only then. Yeah. For the role to be really seen as a role, you have to see the real. Otherwise, you will take the role back as yourself. So this self-knowledge is what delivers the goods. So that is why this verse highlighting that you don't need Atma Sarupatva. Bodha Atma Sarupatva. Since consciousness is the nature of myself alone, Bodha Anyatna Apekshaha Nasti. There is no need for another knowledge, another this. Therefore, there is no subject-object relationship in this knowledge. All that learning does is negate ignorance about what I am. What I am is self-evident. Therefore, when ignorance is gone, I understand myself as what I am. Ignorance alone is the problem. When your ignorance is negated, what is left? You are left as pure consciousness. Clear? Okay. Okay. We can touch upon the next verse also. We can see in detail later, but we can just touch upon it. Vishayatvam vikaritvam nanatvam na va nahi ishyate na heya na pi upadeyaha atma nanyena va tataha. Vishayatvam being an object not there for the Atma. Vikaritvam modifications. The limitless cannot be modified. Only something under the hold of time and space can be modified. Vikaritvam. Nanatvam, being many, limitless cannot be many. Na iha ishyate, is not there for the Atma. Here, in this case, it is not there. Therefore, what happens? Na heyaha, na upadeyaha. You cannot reject or accept yourself. Important thing. We all must learn to accept ourselves. Correct? Fundamental psychological fact. And nobody really does that. Because the self is not very acceptable. There are moments when you will feel, bloody hell, what an idiot I am. All of us will feel that, don't worry. Therefore, that self-acceptance is only with terms of your mind and body. Not with respect to the all-pervading consciousness. That is you. How do you accept yourself or reject yourself? You cannot accept or reject. You can only accept or reject what is not you. This mango I accept. Why? Nice, tasty. The other one I reject. Why? It's rotten. Unfortunately, you cannot do with your mind and body in the same way. You can only take care. Oh, this is a problematic area. I will take care of it. You have to heal it. This is a good area. I can develop it. So those things you can do with something other than you. Atma, how are you going to accept or reject? It is you. Come, do what you want. It is you. I don't like myself. Which part of you don't like? No, you have put on too much weight. I don't like that. That's okay. I understand. So what is there not to like? You like the process of putting on the weight. No, Swamiji, I didn't like it. Of course you liked it. All the sweets that you hogged. Of course you liked it. So do something. There's going to be a partial lockdown for the next 2 weeks, most likely. Partial. Maids and all will be allowed to come, don't worry. So stay at home and do a lot of exercising and things like that. Knock off that. So those are things you can do. With respect to I, what can you do? Na heyaha, you can't reject. Na upadeya, you can't take it on. Heya upadeya, not possible. Atmanaha or na annenava. You can't accept or reject yourself. Others also can't accept and reject yourself. Hey, others also can't reject me. No, nobody can reject you. Why? Because there is no you and them, there is only one consciousness. At the functioning level, okay, that's body mind level, fine. As anatma anyway. I'm feeling very upset. Why? She rejected me. I went on my knees in a public place with a ring in my hand and she said no. Anatma, don't worry. Enjoy the game. So at the level of I, the consciousness, there is nothing other than you anyway. Therefore, nobody can accept or reject you. You cannot accept or reject yourself. Then what is there? Swamiji, I seem to be stuck with myself. Yes, you are. And you will be very happy about it because when you know yourself, you know your Ananda, the source of all joy that is there in the world. Arey, wow, that is great. You remember there was one Upanishad that we did long back where there was something called a calculus of Ananda. याद है? One or two people
Yes.
are yes. Yeah.
Taitriya.
One
Taittiriya.
ounce and 100 and
Yeah,
thousand
multiples
and
of 100, yes.
Isra and
Yes. What does it show? That all the Ananda that you are is yourself alone. One is experiential because of the position. The other is fact of what you are. Shrotriyasya cha akamahatasya. That calculus is mind-boggling. After some time you can't conceptualize it. Even though short of Brahmananda it's all conceptual, but it is mind-boggling. You can't conceptualize it. You can't conceptualize it. It is mind-boggling. But still, an attempt is made to show how much is really your Ananda. But once you know the truth, don't go expect to be going around like a grinning idiot. Okay, that's not the thing. Quite Ananda inside. In spite of adverse circumstances, Ananda inside. That's it. Okay, so that is the whole picture. Okay. All right, there is a good place to stop. Therefore, let's call it a day. Om Tat Sat.